So for a long time, we have been worrying about the poles in politics, especially in Europe. So the populist right and to a lesser extent, the populist left. But I think what we're starting to see now is actually centrist governments, which are highly technocratic, across the middle, which gives certain advantages to policy, but also provides clear dangers in the horizon. And I think that's an interesting hypothesis. I might not be right. I think we see examples of it now, particularly in Denmark, where I'm at, but Romania would be another case, to some extent Germany, to some extent France, and so on. So rather than fearing the populist right or the populist left, we might have to be worried about the technocratic center.
And this is obviously highly, I think, a highly debated topic, because I think the consensus right now is still, we see more bifurcation. We see voting patterns are still moving, left and right. I think that's pretty much what you see. So how did you kind of how did you come to this conclusion?
All right.
Where's the evidence and maybe some indicators and, data?
So it's actually fairly easy for a centrist government to silence the polls in politics. So let's take the Danish example. When the social democratic government embraced a strong view on immigration, they basically took the air out of the populist right? So, then you get the working class voters back that are fearing immigration, or at least worry about it. You can, to a certain extent, do something similar with the left. You can do certain pension reforms, these kind of things, where you can sort of take out the air of their populist bubble. And once you have that, you get back to a game about the median voter, who can get the smallest majority and get to control that. And what is really interesting, and I'm going to use Denmark a lot because I do think it's actually tail-bracing what we might see in the future. So Denmark right now has a social democratic prime minister. We have their traditionally biggest opponent, a classical liberal party called Venstre, as part of the government as well, right? So, the two major parties that used to battle it out has now joined forces. And then the third party is called the Moderates, which is a breakout party of the old Venstre. So basically, the Danish government is formed up by the two parties that used to be at each other's throats, right? This would be like the Republicans and the Democrats joining forces, right? Obviously, that's a different system, but, just to get the idea in people's head. And that means they don't need to rely on one side of parliament, either the left or the right, for anything. They can play both sides if they want. They often have, like right now, a clear majority on their own terms. So they don't even have to ask the opposition. They can just do what they like. And herein lies the potential danger. Also a big opportunity, right? That's how it is, right? So I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but basically, there's no solutions when it comes to policies. There's only alternatives. And I think that's where we need to worry a little about what guides the alternative discussion in these kind of governments.
Apart from Denmark, obviously, that you are watching very closely, do you see other? I mean, like what might come to mind is Germany, Finland. I think to a certain extent, like any other kind of examples where you see this trend happening.
I think Sweden would also be an example of it. I also, again, I'm not a big expert on France, but we can take France as an example of France is an interesting example. They definitely need to change their pension system. I think any outside observer will agree that they need to do that. The populist doesn't want it to happen, obviously, right? So they cause strikes and all these kind of things. So the good side of this is that these types of governments can make unpopular decisions. And I think that's a good side, that they're willing to listen to ideas that might not be their own, and they are willing to make unpopular decisions. However, and I think we see that generally in Europe, not yet in Southern Europe to the fullest extent as we see in some of the northern parts, but I think we see evidence of this. Yeah.